heat is on. When the summer holidays come round, it means a busy season for the locomotives on the Normanton and Warwick Railway. Each year, locals and tourists are eager to enjoy the sunshine by visiting the seaside village of Cleveland, or picnic in the fields in the countryside that run on either side of the railway. Normally, all the locomotives would enjoy the boom in popularity that their little branch line receives, but this year it was very different. It had been a very hot and dry summer, so the local fire department had enforced rules to try and reduce the risk of any fires starting and spreading. And poor Otis, being a steam engine, was a high potential risk, and had to be laid up in the sheds until the fire ban was lifted. He knew that this was a very serious matter, but deep down he was itching to be running under his own steam again, and be out and about helping the other locomotives with the extra trains.
I know you really want to run, but we sadly just cannot risk it. However, in the meantime, this would be a good opportunity to have you transferred to the workshops and have your regular maintenance check.
Yes, Miss Stacy. Otis sadly agreed. He knew it wasn't much, but at least he could travel, even for a short distance. Trixie collected him that afternoon, and they headed off to the workshops. Summer season was also keeping Beatrice, the branch line's maintenance locomotive, very busy. While she did her best to help assist Electra and Rudolph with the railway services, the hot summer sun also meant that there was a high risk with the railway tracks kinking and buckling out of shape. And day after day, dawn to evening, she would travel up and down from one end of the line to the other, making sure the rails were still perfectly aligned. But as the summer continued, the weather got hotter and also a lot busier, with tourists and freight orders wanting to move things quickly, which put a big strain to the branch line's 3 working locomotives.
I'd wish it would rain. I'd wish it would rain.
Funny to hear this from a diesel who normally hates the rain.
Humph. I may not like it, but if it means getting Otis back on the line, the quicker...
Out of the way! Passenger service needs priority.
He leaves.
Sparrow, from the Mainline, was hired temporarily to help with the extra trains. However, while Sparrow was proving to be a helpful addition, and has learned some lessons from the last time he visited, his arrival was not fully welcomed by the other locomotives.
It's not fair. I'm tired of all these freight train duties. Why can't I do a passenger train for a change and stretch my bearings?
You're just green with envy because the passengers prefer me over you.
Of course, this wasn't all true. Passenger trains on the Mainline are provided with air-conditioned coaches for long-distance travelling, which made Sparrow's coaches very popular for the many locals and tourists travelling on the branch. Because of this, all passenger services were taken care of solely by Sparrow, leaving the others with all the freight duties. Sparrow was enjoying the attention and praise he was receiving from every trip.
It's so great to be the most popular locomotive choice on this branch line.
I say the heat has gone into your head.
However, while Sparrow's trains were a huge delight to the passengers, it did pose some problems. At first, Sparrow was being sensible and monitoring the air conditioning system efficiently. But with every praise that he got, he kept lowering the temperature to please the passengers, and he was forcing the unit to work harder than normal. The air conditioning unit used a lot of power, which was fine for when he was working on the main line, for he had overhead wires to deliver endless supply of electricity to operate them. The branch line, on the other hand, was all open country, and Sparrow was working his backup diesel generator continuously to keep him and the passengers' cooling systems running. The other engines were very concerned about this, especially when Sparrow had to keep topping up with fuel and water more often than normal.
Hey, Sparrow, you really need to be more careful. You're wasting a lot of precious resources.
Pah, nonsense. There's plenty of diesel fuel for all of us, and if I need water, I'll just take it from those funny water towery things. That old red iron is not going to be using them anytime soon.
But even so, Sparrow was taking up water nearly everywhere he went. One hot afternoon, Sparrow had collected his passengers from Normanton Station and was racing down the line to Warwick Junction. As they raced along the countryside, things were starting to go downhill. At first, he thought it was just the heat. But then...
Hang on, why am I going slower?
And indeed he was. The high-speed train found himself slowing down more and more until he came to a stop.
Oh no, I've run out of electricity.
He tried to start up his generator. But it was no good. Sparrow's diesel generator had overheated from providing extra power to run the air conditioning unit, and now he and his passengers were stranded in the middle of nowhere. The passengers didn't like this one bit and were very cross. They now had to wait in the coaches, and with no air conditioning they couldn't stay cool for very long. The guard meanwhile quickly radioed for help. At the branch line workshops, Otis was with Beatrice and Trixie when the call came.
Control to Beatrice! Sparrow has stranded himself along the line to Warwick Junction. Please go assist with any available water tanks for his radiator. Over. Beatrice to Control. We'll head out right away. Over.
However, there was a slight problem.
My water tank car! It's empty! Sparrow must have used it to refill his tanks. What are we going to do? It's going to take ages to fill up a new one.
The answer is simple. You can take my tender with you. There should be enough to refill Sparrow's radiator, at least for a while.
Are you sure?
Positive. I'm not going anywhere soon with this fire ban still on, so take it with you. So Beatrice raced off with Otis's tender in tow to the rescue. The passengers cheered with delight when they heard Beatrice's horn, and she quickly pulled Sparrow and his train to the next station, where the station crew were waiting with bottles of water to hand out to the passengers. Rudolph was also waiting there, ready to take over the train.
Looks like a bee has once again rescued the Sparrow.
Then he, along with Beatrice, helped pull and push Sparrow into a siding, so that the work crew could check his components for any damage.
3 cheers for Beatrice! Hip hip!
Hooray! They would have cheered for more, but the train was already delayed enough, and they all clambered back on board. Rudolph, extremely pleased to be pulling a passenger service train for a change, raced off down the line with Sparrow's coaches in tow. Once Sparrow's radiator was filled with water, Beatrice shuttled back down to the workshop to return Otis's tender. Thankfully, Sparrow didn't suffer any damage and was able to start off again after a quick rest, but his pride was a little hurt, and was even more unhappy when he had to take Rudolph's goods train in his absence.
Sparrow?
Okay.
As Beatrice looked up to the sky, she smiled.
Looks like we're finally gonna get some much-needed rain.
And she was right.